This is Girl Zach, and you guys know I love Planet of the Apes. It's my favorite franchise, and there's my favorite movies. And now that it's been a bit since the release of Planet of the Apes, so I thought I would rank every Planet of the Apes movie. Now do keep in mind, this ranking is my personal opinions, with a mix of professional opinions. So if you don't get my ranking, just my opinions. So without any further ado, let's begin. Coming in 10th place, we have Battle for the Planet of the Apes. This is the only movie in this franchise that I actually think is just straight up bad. The time jump from Conquest, the previous movie, makes no sense. And even as the mega Apes fan I am, I'm not sure when this movie takes place. I've heard 10 years after Conquest, I've heard 20 years after Conquest. Either one doesn't make sense. For either one of those time links, the apes are way too evolved. They look and speak like they do in the original movie, which takes place thousands and thousands of years in the future. And you can really tell this movie had a really low budget, because it just looks so cheap. Ryan McDowell's Caesar is good, which isn't really surprising. The other characters are fine, I suppose. Aldo is the worst, most uninteresting, most uncompelling villain in this entire franchise. His whole motive character is that he's a villain. That's it. I like Caesar's son in the scene where he dies. This movie feels like if somebody tried to mash Planet of the Apes with Mad Max, but it went horribly. But other than that, Battle for the Planet of the Apes is bad. And a lot of Apes fans agree, including myself, that this is the worst Planet of the Apes movie. Coming in 9th place, we have Beneath the Planet of the Apes. This movie is just really weird. As a kid, I thought it was weird, and I still think it's weird. The first half of the movie is just retelling the events of the original movie, but worse. And the second half, well, yes, it's very unique. It's very unique. It's just weird. And even though I like weird movies, my favorite director is Tim Burton. His movies are the definition of weird. But the telepathic mutant humans just feels out of place for Planet of the Apes. In another franchise, this would maybe work, but it just doesn't work here. Brent is just Taylor, but not. The only reason Brent exists is because Charlton Heston agreed to be in this movie for like 5 minutes. They might as well just recasted Taylor's actor with Brent's actor. In the last 10 minutes, it's honestly pretty entertaining. And it does have a very risky end, which I actually really appreciate. Beneath the Planet of the Apes has a lot of unique concepts, but ultimately, I think it falls flat. Coming in 8th place, we have the 2001 Planet of the Apes remake. Now this may come as a surprise to some of you, considering that I literally just mentioned how Tim Burton is my favorite director. So you're probably thinking, I would love playing this movie for the mind of Tim Burton. But that's exactly the problem with this movie. Tim Burton's style doesn't match well with Planet of the Apes. I actually do like this movie. It does unique and interesting things. The film itself looks stunning, and the makeup effects are some of the best I've ever seen. This is what you get if you mix Planet of the Apes, Lord of the Rings, and Tim Burton. And while yes, on paper that sounds incredible, when played out, it comes across as definitely not great. Not bad, but not really good. Now, this movie really can play interesting characters, and that probably could have saved it, but it doesn't. Most of the characters are either boring or teetering on the edge of being boring. Of course, except for one. Tim Roth is General Fake. The character itself isn't really interesting or compelling, but he is just a blast to watch. It's definitely the best thing in the movie. And of course, the ending isn't very good. I first more accurate to the book than the original. I first done a lot better in the book, which I don't doubt for a second. But as for the movie, it wasn't done very well. Coming in 7th place, we have Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. Now, from here on, I like all these movies. For one, I actually think this is a good sequel to Escape. That's one of the things the original Apes movies really struggle with. Like, I don't think Beneath is a good sequel to Planet of the Apes. I don't think Battle is a good sequel to Conquest. But I do think Conquest is a good sequel to Escape. It takes where Stray left off in a nice, interesting, and way it feels natural and makes sense. The best thing about this movie is, of course, no doubt, Roddy McDowell as Caesar. It's so different from his role as Cornelius, and gives off what might be my favorite speech in all of cinema. I also can't believe the Ape Uprising. I think Caesar would be able to do this. Overall, I do like Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. Coming in 6th place, we have Escape from the Planet of the Apes. I think this movie is really good. I love getting more of Zero and Cornelius. They're definitely my favorite characters in the original Apes movies. I love that we really get to see their chemistry and their relationship. This is also the movie that really solidifies Cornelius as my favorite character in the original Apes movies. And I really like Dr. Aslyn, the villain in this movie. What he does makes sense. You understand where he's coming from, but you don't agree with it. But you still understand his motivations. And I love how this movie switches to a comedy halfway through the middle, and then towards the final act, it goes like full suspense. Like, no joke, the ending of this movie is so suspenseful. And personally, I love it. And the makeup effects in Escape are probably the best in original Apes movies. Probably because for most of the film, there's only 2 apes, so a lot more time and budget could be put into that makeup. Coming in 5th place by Planet of the Apes. If I made a list of my top 100, 200 favorite movies, then this would definitely be on that list. From here on, all these movies are great. What can I say about the original Planet of the Apes that's already been said? This movie's great. This one was revolutionary. Such a silly idea that should have failed turned into a genuinely great movie. But state-of-the-art makeup effects that still look good even today. And of course, the twist ending, which I'm not talking about during this video, because that's gonna get its own video. Taylor is such an engaging, interesting character, and you start to like him pretty quickly. The other humans are also pretty likable. They don't get a lot to do, but they serve their purpose well. Nova is, like, it's a bit unnecessary. Like, if she was taken out of the film, it wouldn't change that much, but still a nice addition. Zira and Cornelius are immediately so likable. I love their relationship with Taylor. And generally the characters bounce off of each other. Dr. Zayas is such a good antagonist. He's not a full-blown villain in my opinion, but definitely an antagonist. His motivations make sense. You understand them. But of course, you don't agree. Overall, Planet of the Apes is a great movie, and a great start to my favorite franchise. Coming in 4th place, we have Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. After so many years of worrying about Disney making a 4th Planet of the Apes, the worrying was all for nothing, because it was great. It continues this world after a war that feels natural. It doesn't feel like it's clinging on to the Rise trilogy. It pays its respects, but opens up a new door and goes through it fully. You get so quickly attached and engaged in Noah, and all the characters for that matter. Proximus Caesar, like all the great villains in this franchise, has motives that you don't agree with, but you understand. He's also just such an irritating and missing villain, and this way keeps open the door for a sequel, but still closes the door on this story. And the effects of the environment and the apes are just great. I'm not gonna say they're crown par with war, but they're still fantastic. If you want to hear me ramble more about Kingdom, then check out my review, linked in the description. Coming in 3rd place, we have Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Now, I actually think overall, Kingdom is a bit better of a film, but I think the high moments in Rise are more higher than the high moments in Kingdom. This is such a great beginning to what, in my opinion, is the best trilogy ever made. It has one story by the end of the film, that story is wrapped up, but it leaves breadcrumbs for a sequel, which unless you're a trilogy, like Lord of the Rings or Pirates of the Caribbean, which were filmed back to back, then making the first one what you hope is a trilogy, but I'm not sure if it's going to be a trilogy, finishing the story of this first film, but making sure there are little things for a sequel potentially, it's very smart. Kingdom also does that very well. Rise is such a simple story. An ape gains intelligence, and gives that same intelligence to other apes, which allows them to break free. That's so simple, but so effective. It's made because of the amazing performance of Andy Serkis, Caesar. It's not just my favorite character of all time. I also think he's the best character of all time. And in my opinion, it's the best performance of all time. Caesar is such a likable, engaging, fantastic character. You pretty much immediately like him. And of course, this is one of the 3 films, along with Lord of the Rings and Avatar, that really pushed motion capture forward. I also think this movie's soundtrack, by Patrick Doyle, is very underrated. The entire Apes franchise has really great and underrated music. Overall, I love Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I think it's a great start to a great trilogy. Coming in 2nd place, we have Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Now, this is my personal favorite Planet of the Apes movie. If I was asked to point to the one film that wanted to make me become a filmmaker, I would point to this one. Of course, it wasn't just this film, but it was mainly this film. I remember the first time Dawn ended, I was amazed. And I'm still amazed every time the credits begin to roll. The effects in this movie still look great after 10 years. Andy Serkis continues to give the best performance of all time. The development of Caesar in this movie is amazing. And Toby Kebbell as Koba is one of the best and most underrated performances ever. Since Koba was already in Rise, you already know this character. It makes his motivations all that much better, since you actually see it in Rise. So you would 100% understand Koba's motivations. And to an extent, there's a little part of you that kind of agrees with him. And he's my favorite villain of all time. I love all the characters in this movie, and all the parts they play, especially Jason Clarke as Malcolm. He's definitely my favorite human in the Apes franchise, and I am so sad that in the lead scene in War of the Planet of the Apes, it was revealed that he was killed. The set designs of this movie are also incredible. I don't see people talk about that nearly enough. The final fight scene between Caesar and Koba is my favorite scene of all time. I just love it so much. None of the fight feels forced. Everything feels natural. At least my favorite villain death of all time. And it is on the way, it doesn't close the door. It begins to, but leaves it open. Because by the time you have your second movie in a trilogy, you're more sure you're probably going to be able to make your third movie. It's one of the sequels that is better than the original, and is one of, if not the best sequel ever made. Overall, I love Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. This movie will always be in a constant battle between 9 for which one is my favorite movie. If I ever make a film that is even mentioned in the same sentence as Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, I'll be one happy guy. Coming in first place, we have War for the Planet of the Apes. In my opinion, this isn't just the best Planet of the Apes movie, but in my opinion, this is the best film ever made. This movie is nothing short of a masterpiece. Caesar's journey through this film is so heartbreaking and engaging. The way Andy Serkis used to play this character, that by now is just broken and struggles to find himself, is just truly a stunning performance. Andy Serkis deserves an Oscar! All three returning characters are great, and they all performed amazingly. The CGI effects in this film are the best ever put on film. These are real apes. You can't tell me otherwise. The Colonel, played by Woody Harrelson, is a great villain. This is a man that has gone crazy, but he truly believes he's doing what's right, and that's really terrifying. I've seen some people say that this movie should even be called War for the Planet of the Apes, since there's only 2 battles in the movie, one at the beginning and one at the end. But War for the Planet of the Apes isn't a war movie. It's a movie about the effects and consequences of war, and the shadow Koba covers over this entire movie is exceptional. Koba is like a ghost that still haunts these characters, and this was the first movie that ever made me cry. Caesar's death scene is so sad, but also bittersweet, because the apes are now home. Caesar saved them, so you're happy because of that, but you're so sad to see Caesar die. Seeing my favorite character die, but die peacefully, knowing that he finally finished what he set out to do. And Bad Ape opens the door for more Planet of the Apes movies, which we would see play out in Kingdom. War for the Planet of the Apes is a masterpiece. I don't think there could ever be a movie that is better than War for the Planet of the Apes. I love this movie, and I love Planet of the Apes. Not every movie is great, but the ones that are great are stunning. It's my favorite franchise. They're my favorite movies. My favorite characters. I love Planet of the Apes. But leave the comments below, what do you think about this franchise? And how would you rate these movies? Bye guys for now. Bye, Scott Thacker.